Hello everybody, welcome along again to another edition of the Rebel Wild Ball, and as is customary now at this stage, we do a little bit of looking back before we start looking at what's happening for the weekend, and where better to start than the game in Cork last Sunday between Cork and Limerick. Now, absolutely no doubt in the world about it, it was a game between two evenly matched sides, two mid-division 2 teams I would suggest at this particular juncture, and that's the kind of reality of this particular scenario. Cork won and probably deserved to in the end, insofar as that I know that people will point to the fact that Limerick got 1-3 when Cork were down, when Limerick go down to 14 players, and there's no doubt in my mind that was a huge turnaround. Having said that, when Cork were reduced, when Paul Walsh came on, unlucky, I would say very unlucky looking back in it, to be sent off Cork to deal with that scenario. Then I suppose the two stars of the show were number 2 and number 4, but they were everywhere, as well as being at 2 and 4, and that's Sean Poulter from Douglas and Kevin O'Donovan from Nemo Rangers, and I think the two of them were involved in the incident that set up the penalty, which was excellently converted by Brian Hurley. And as you know, the inside forward line, we're getting to know them a little bit better, and that means that we're getting to see them, which means that they're still in the action. Brian Hurley was a little bit quiet for stages the last day, but I think the amount of work that he did off the ball and some of the frees that were converted by Stephen Sherlock came from fouls on him, and I think that Brian will be, he's the team captain, certainly leading by example. He'll be pleased the way the season's going. Cathal O'Mahony, I don't think anybody in that Cork team would have taken the goal like he did. It was a crucial score, but I do think that more needs to be done to bring Cathal into the game, whether it is by himself or the structures that are set in place. But anyway, that was the on-field. It means that Cork got into the quarter-final draws. The other, I suppose, item that's worthy of mention is the support that Cork got on Sunday. No, I'm not talking that there was massive traffic jams or anything like that, but there was a nice atmosphere in there, and that was aided greatly by the decision of somebody to invite in the Skin and Skull winners from the previous week, and what a wonderful tournament that was. And they were paraded at half time. The development squads, the county development squads were in there in their gear as well, and that added enormously to the colour. And look, you've got to create that kind of a scenario, and for too long we kind of fostered and wallowed in self-pity about the lack of following for Cork football. Well then, I think some people are doing something about this, and that was a move in what I would consider the right direction. Then obviously the draws on Monday morning, and my God, if the draw lord was a Corkman for the last 2 weeks, he certainly turned his ire on us on Sunday morning and presented the most unforgiving of draws, having to travel to Croke Park, and when the GA met during the week to try and sort out these fixtures, look, there was never any doubt in my mind what it was going to be, but we're led to believe that Dublin were absolutely trenchant in their views that they weren't coming down to Cork and Kiev. I'm going to say that's another stick to beat them with, but by the time we're finished with Kieran Kilkenny, Conor O'Callaghan, you can talk about that stick. But look, it's and the draws, as you well know at this stage, Cork and Dublin on Saturday week at 6 o'clock. What a horrendous time! And then the game before that, where I think it's Clare and Derry. The following day you have Amman, Galway and Kerry and Mayo. And as soon as the draws are made, there was social media went ballistic about taking teams to Dublin. But what do we hear? That these matches are nearly sold out, and this is the week previous. So that was a little bit surprising. Anyway, they're the footballers, they're still standing. We now look forward, I suppose, if you like, to what's in store this weekend. And we have Cork teams out, the hurlers, the Camogie team and the ladies footballers. The hurling team, well, they take on Galway in Thurles in the quarter-final at 1:45 on Sunday. I suppose the first thing we would say about that is Cianan Fahey, that guy there was 3 players, that fella Cianan Fahey, and then there was Rory Hayes and Peter Duggan from Clare that were suspended, if you wish, after the CCC reviewed TV footage that was brought to their light by the Sunday game. So they were suspended, or they were suggested for them. All 3 appealed, and it would appear that all 3 got off in a technicality. Like, it's an issue for the GA. and it is a credibility issue. It's not as easy as you think to sort these things out. I mean, we had in Clare during the week a former TD, independent TD, a fellow called James Breen, and this fellow more or less called that Clare shouldn't turn up to this match. They should boycott it. Such were they so annoyed about the treatment to Rhoda Hayes and Peter Duggan. And of course then what happened is that, you know, everybody has access to all these matches now, and they spotted incidents in that Clare game, in the Limerick Clare game, where some of the Limerick boys did a few stunts here and there as well. But it's one messy situation for the GA, no doubt about that. But look, Finan Fahy is not going to make the difference between Cork, a major difference on Saturday. If what happened in the football last weekend, where all the losing provincial finalists lost, if the same thing proceeds and there's only 2 provinces in hurling, Galway and Clare should lose, and if that were to happen, it would be the best possible result from Cork, because it would mean that Cork would be playing Kilkenny in the All-Ireland semi-final rather than Limerick. But anyway, it's a case of not really knowing. We know what the Cork team bring to this now, and look, I know that they were disappointing in a couple of their championship games, but they seem to be back in action. The game last week against Antrim, look, they got through it. There was nothing, I don't think there was any major learnings, if we can use that term, from it. But I do think the Cork have a really good chance here. Not sure what's going on in Galway. They look really poor in the Leinster final, if you can say that. And like Henry Shefflin, that they seem to be, I don't know, was he overly concerned about the buck on the other side, whether the handshake was going to take place or not. But look, I do think the Cork have a great chance of winning here. Now that these suspensions have been sorted out, Clare should get over Wexford, because like when they lost to Limerick, like when you lose a provincial final, I would imagine that the downer associated with that, and the first match back is the most difficult one. But look, I suppose from a Clare psychology point of view, they were deemed the 5th player in Munster at the start of the year. So I think that they won't be as affected as much by the defeat as Galway were. So I'm expecting Cork to get over that. I suppose one of those questions now we ask is when the Cork team is going to line out, not the one that's going to be announced. Is it tomorrow night? Will Patrick Horgan start? Will he come on? Will Tim O'Mahony be on there instead of him? So, but look, if the Cork players that have been showing gradual improvement, like, well, I won't say gradual, Kieran Joyce doing very well at centre back, Mark Coleman at wing back, then Dara Fitzgibbon, Luke Meade, that partnership around midfield, and Robbie O'Flynn, who was Cork player of the year nearly this year so far. So I think we'll go for a Cork victory there, and we'll stand by the bannerman on this occasion. The other thing is the Tailteann Cup. By the way, I noticed that this is a hurling league game in Cork. This weekend the clubs play the hurling league, and I think every effort has been made to make sure there's no match on during when the Cork hurlers are playing, and I think that's only right. Hopefully the same thing will happen next week. There's a whole host of games scheduled, as they should be, for Saturday evening, while the Cork and the Dubs, and maybe they're in the higher divisions, I know that Division 1 or 2, they need to be changed as well. We'll be keeping an eye on that, because I'm not saying that people are going to watch it, or all of that. I hope they would. But can they watch it? They can listen to it, right? So I think we'll keep an eye on that one. But the Tailteann Cup semi-finals, what an incredible competition, and how successful it has turned out to be. And well done to the GA. They put it on Sunday in Croke Park. Now, we'll talk about it first of all, and then it involves Cavan and Sligo, and that game is at 1:45, and the other game between Offaly and Westmeath, that game is on later at 4 o'clock. Televised, Croke Park, an incredibly successful competition. All of the players stayed at home for it. I think one county lost one player heading off to America. Right? This has been an excellent competition, and well done to the team. And I'm delighted that the winners will not be, as happens for the Joe McDonagh, forced to play in the higher grade competition. I think that takes him to Joe McDonough, to be honest, but that's only my bumble opinion on that one. And then whoever wins that, they're going to play the final as a curtain raiser to one of the All-Ireland football semi-finals on the 9th of July. So I think the GR, there was a lot of talk, so many people against the Tailteann Cup saying that the GA would hide behind it and that it would be promoted. It's excellently promoted. And would you believe I met one or two people during the week, they consider themselves hurling folk. In the GA, can you think back to your day learning in maths class? Usually it was the first thing, one time, that people did when they went into secondary school. Kind of the first maths class was sets. Remember those? The Venn diagrams? Okay, we'll think of the Venn diagram now. So you have hurling on one side, football on the other. And then the intersection in the middle should nearly be the biggest place where GA people are. Well, there are folk who consider themselves hurling folk and nothing else. And by the way, the other galoots are out there as well, football folk and nothing else. So by all accounts, the hurling folk are not, some of them are not impressed that the Tailteann Cup is on Sunday at primetime television in Croke Park, where the hurling quarterfinals are on Saturday. Anyway, small things keep us going, my friends, small things. Anyway, moving on then to I think a competition that has a bit like the Tailteann Cup, and that's the Premier Senior Hurling and Football Championship begun in Cork with the playing of what's known as the seeded divisionals. 5 divisions in hurling and football that are seeded. In football, the team that's not seeded is Donegal, and in hurling is Killy. They'll come in later on. But these 5 teams have been playing matches, hurling on Tuesday night, football on Thursday night. And there's another game on tonight in Donegal between Baron and Musgrave, which I think Musgraves are going to win that one. And then, so the teams that win, they go to the semi-finals of this competition. One team will lose out. So after tonight, there's one football game left. The loser of the game in Donegal, which I think will be Beara, will play Killy next week. And the hurling are down to a losing situation as well. That the Carberry team that lost after 2 very good games, despite they've lost by a point in injury time to Donegal, they play Musgrave in the last game there, and then you have 4 teams in semi-finals. And again, it's about promotion, and when I'm talking about promotion, progress should be these venues, they should be well advertised. And whereas the divisional teams are maligned a little bit in the past, I think this structure is really good and should be well supported. Okay, it's not perfect, and there are still some drawbacks. There are still some clubs, managers who, I believe some of them put on training the night the divisions are playing. But look, we could go down the negative way, right? Glass half full, glass half empty. Some fella said one day that even when it is empty, it is full of air. And I do think that this is a glass half full job, and well done to the people that manage these teams, and well done to the players. I've been at one of them, and it's an excellent game. Hope to be at another one tonight. So anyway, another competition that's on is the Creedon Cup. Now it's okay. I think my understanding of this is this is for football only clubs, and the competitions are played. The matches are played on hurling weekends in Cork. The hurling leagues one weekend, football leagues the other, which is grand. But like obviously there's a bit of, there are some clubs that just don't play hurling, so they play in this competition, and they're now down to the semi-finals, which are on Saturday evening. And by all accounts, they'll be fair cutting at these games and fair interest. They're on in the Macroom GA Club. It's a competition that's jointly hosted by Macroom and the County Board. So at 4 o'clock we have Trwb, the County Junior Champions from last year, playing Macroom, and in the other game we have Kilnamatra and Castletown Bear. Some folks tell me that these could be 2 saucy enough affairs, and in 2 weeks' time then the final should take place. Of course, if you really wanted the final to excite the folk, it would be the neighbours Macroom and Kilnamatra. But well done to everybody involved in organising that competition. Camogie and the Cork Camogie senior Camogie team, intermediate Camogie team, are absolutely flying. They've played 3 matches out of the 5 that they're going to play. Both of them have won. The intermediates are not played this weekend. The senior team are going to Walsh Park 5 o'clock, and if they win that one, they're through to the semi-finals of the All-Ireland. And I see where Waterford beat Tipperary last week, and okay, maybe there is maybe an improving fortunes in Waterford, but it just shows that Tipperary have dropped out to the top. And really, you're talking Kilkenny, Cork and Galway for the All-Ireland Senior Camogie final. Ladies football, there's one match, like the way this thing is set up in ladies football, they have, 4 groups, 2 groups of 3, 2 groups of 4, 14 teams altogether, and the top 2 in each will qualify for the All-Ireland quarters. Now, in almost sure that the two top teams that would qualify from their sections are going to be Dublin and Meath. It's important from a Cork point of view that they also top their group to avoid, and I think if they do, it's possible they wouldn't avoid playing Meath or Dublin until an All-Ireland final. So their game this weekend, they're in a group with Waterford and Donegal. Donegal just beat Waterford last weekend. Cork play Waterford this weekend, and it's a must-win match in terms of, okay, they are going to qualify. I think they would beat Waterford next weekend. But to beat Donegal, I think it would mean a clearer path to the All-Ireland final. It goes on in Clane on Sunday, 2 o'clock, and we'll be looking. That game was going to be really interesting. Donegal are a good side as well. I suppose an interesting change in the team this year is that Maeve O'Sullivan seems to be the lady who's entrusted with the goalkeeping position for the moment. So I would imagine, okay, I think the Camogie team will definitely win. The ladies football, that's going to be a tough enough struggle, but there's no doubt saying otherwise, it's a crucial and vital game. This time last week we were talking about the Nations League, and we said that Ireland had played 2 matches, scored 2 goals, 12 matches, my apologies, and 1 none. And my God, there was a huge air of despair around heading into the Scotland game at the Aviva on Saturday, and what a turnaround, 3-0. And then they travelled to Poland to play Ukraine on was it Wednesday night, Tuesday night, and I suppose it was a massive result insofar as the Ukrainians had a full team out. Remember, previously a second Ukrainian team had beaten Ireland, but it was a 1-1 draw, and of course the goal was an absolute one of these goals that will be shown forever, scored by 22-year-old Selbridge native Nathan Collins. His family would be well steeped in soccer. He plays with Burnley, and all of a sudden we're back big time believing in the Stephen Kinney experiment. And what about the amount of young players that he has? 2 top class goalkeepers for a start that are operating in Premier League. So things are looking good, and people, they play 2 more of those Nations Cup game in September. On the 24th, they travel to Scotland. Obviously, that's going to be a big one, and then Armenia back in Ireland on the 27th. So it's from an international point of view, and from Stephen Kinney, it was great to finish up the summer on a positive note. So then we have the only thing that happened in rugby is that the 40-man Irish squad was not named for the tour to July, which will take place in the tour to July. Oh my God, the tour to New Zealand, which is to take place in July. They will play 3 test games, and then there's 2 games in between, one before the 3rd test against the Maori All Blacks. But in the 40-man squad, 20 of them from Leinster, 8 from Munster, and one of them isn't a Munster man. Joey Carberry's actually Leinster born, so only 7, and then you have 7 Ulster and 5 from Connacht. Our last little mention this week is golf. It is the US Open. It's the 3rd of the majors. They say it's the toughest one of them to win. It's the toughest courses, the way they're set up, and this time it takes place in Brookline in Boston, and this is organised by the US Golf Association, and it's not a PGA event only. So PGA players obviously are invited. I'm not too sure of the criteria, but the breakaway LVE invitation series, which is funded by this Saudi money, they are going to be there as well. Phil Mickelson being one of them, and actually he plays, when he goes out later on, is with Rory McIlroy. 3 Irish guys. The main fella is Rory McIlroy. Again, Actually, Phil Mickelson plays with Shane Lowry. And last week when McIlroy won the Canadian Open, it was his 21st PGA Tour event that he won. And he made reference to Greg Norman, who had won 20. And the reason he did is Greg Norman is the driving force, one of the driving force behind this rival group, LIV. Anyway, best of luck to the Irish guys. Seamus Power is in there as well, the West Waterford man. It would be some incredible story if any of them were to win it. But in particular, Seamus Power. So until the next time, again, thanks very much for taking trouble to whatever you do, listen or watch. But the most important thing is take care, full roll call needed the next time we chat.